Good day, everyone. Today we are going to be working on a project together. I'm going to be doing one of the challenges on Frontend Mentor, and this is the challenge we are going to be doing, Age Calculator application. Now, the Age Calculator application is just it's a simple application of HTML, CSS, JavaScript that we can build together. The in HTML and CSS is pretty simple, but the JavaScript is it requires it to do some calculations and some critical thinking. So walk through the project together and yeah, so you can come to frontendmentor.io, go to navigate to challenges, and then you can maybe put in these filters: free, newbie, junior, intermediate, and just tick all these boxes and then go to the age calculator application. You can log in with GitHub or log in with any other account that you want. You start the challenge and you download assets. So when you start the challenge, you have to download the assets. So I've already downloaded the assets and this is the assets and I've already unzipped it. So this is what you get when you unzip it. So what we are going to do is now we are going to open it with VS Code. We are going to open this particular folder, this particular folder that is unzipped. We are going to open it with VS Code. So I'll just shift and open with VS Code. I trust the authors. Yeah, so in the you are going to be provided some assets. One of the most important one is the style guide. So you need to go through the style guide to be able to, you know, just go through the style guide to see what it's about. So they give some certification, they give some of the colors they are going to use in the application, um, the typography, and just overall layout. And then you can also read the README, which is which shows you what the application, how the application should function. And if we go to design, go to let's go to desktop design. So you are going to see how the design should be like. You understand? So the error when it's empty, when it's empty, the invalid states, maybe if a date is not valid, and so just go through each of the images so that you'll be able to have a feel of what the application should be like. You understand? So let's close all this. And they created a so I'll leave the style guide open so that we can always fall back to it. Created an index.html for us, and they have the default stylings and they have the default setup. So for the style, what's it called? The style, we are going to clear this because we are going to be using an external style sheet, and I can just create one now. Let me just create one. So say new file style dot c sorry style dot css, and yeah, let me minimize this so that yeah, so style.css, and we can import that after this link to the CSS. Close all this and save this. This attribution you can decide to leave it or remove it. But for now, I'll just remove it. So for our basic setup, we've we've added our style.css. Let's add our scripts, well, our JavaScript. So we also call that um, script.js. Yeah. And for now, we're not going to be using it from now. We are going to create, let's say we are going to do is to create the skeleton of of how our application should be. But now I'm just doing the setup. So I'll say script, and yeah, script.css. So for applications that extensions, if you are using VS Code, of course, I expect everyone watching this video to have VS Code already installed. So if you are using VS Code, you can come down to your extensions and install live server. So live server by rate weekday. So when you install it, be able to launch this your index. If I click on go live, we'll see that we'll see the application here. So and yeah, so that's what live server is. So if I make any changes, so let's say I remove s from days and I go back, see that there's no more s there. And if I put it back, see that is there. So install live server. And for auto completion, because when I'm working on the application to code faster, you can also install AI that can help you to make auto completions faster. So we can use WinSoft. So yeah, the WinSoft plugin. Yeah, so this is the WinSoft plugin. So you can install it, get and create an account and stuff like that. So those are some of the tools that are going to be needed. So let's just yeah, so let's create the skeleton of our application. So first things first, I think I can just remove this. So first things first, in our body, we are going to have our main. So we have our main elements. And inside our main elements, we are going to have a container class. So now I want to teach you a very shorthand for creating a div with a class. So you can just do dot container and then it will automatically create a div with a class name of container for you. If you want an ID, you'll do hash, let's say container, and it creates a div with ID for you. But if you want, let's say h1, h1 with a class name of things, you see, it created a class h1 with class name of edit. So that's just some of the shortcuts you can use. So we're going to create a content. So now let's go back to the design. Let's open the design and let's see desktop design. So this is our body. This is going to be our full body. It's going to be our full body. And then we have our main element. I just created the main element and this will be our container. This right here is going to be our container. This will be another div. This center one will be another div. This bottom one is going to be another div. So we are going to need, so we have already created our container. We'll create the div up here. We'll create another div, another div. So I want you to make your design easy, to make your setup easy. You understand? You need to view every um, elements on your web page as a box inside the box, inside another box that you're just trying to, arrange together. So let me just give you a brief, let me just give you a brief overview. So if I come here and I click on a pencil, or let me just, so let's say you have a box, you understand? So I want you to treat your web page as a box. And then let's say you want to lay out an element, you can just create another box, let's say a div here, and then we are going to create a small div here and then the final div here. Understand? So I want you to treat your web page as a box, you understand? And if you go back to the design, we now have three other boxes inside. You understand? I'm just using boxes as kind of like a an explanation. They are divs, you understand? So we can create another div, we can create another div, and you can create another div. So you picturing your website like this is going to give you a faster way for you to design, faster way for you to do your setup, and you'll be able to place elements easily, going to make your layout easily. You understand? So just keep this in mind so that you can, anytime you're working on your own projects or you want to do the challenge by yourself, you'll be able to think how you are going to structure your website. So let's go back to our web page. Is currently empty right now. We'll start putting in content. So first things first, we are going to. I said we've already created the container. So we are going to have three different inputs, or sorry, three different containers. So let's and just write make a comment. So say inputs setup are going to have action set up, and what's the last one? The last one is going to be okay, the results. So say results set up. So for the input setup, we are going to create a div with a class name of inputs to hold the divs together, and then we are going to have um, three different divs, to represent each of these. So one, two, three. So let's create the first one called form dash inputs. Sorry. So I'll create one since they all have the same design. So I'll create the first one and then duplicate it. So the first one, we are going to have a label, and the label is going to be for the day, and we are also going to give it an ID so that we can target it later. So with our JavaScript, so say ID should be equal to day dash label, and then we'll pass in the label day. So after the label, we are going to have our input, and then the input is going to be of type number, and we also put in a name for the day, and then we'll also give it an ID of day dash inputs. So also give it a placeholder dd. Yeah, and yeah. So if we look at the design, let's go to our error MC. Yeah, you see that we have another on the normal design. It's not showing, but like when there's an error, we have this field here that is showing. So what we are going to do is we are going to create a span after these our inputs to display our error. So a span, nothing is going to be in the span. We'll just give it a class of error, give it an ID of, let's give it day dash error. So we have the basic setup done for the first inputs. So if we save, if we go back to our design, we have this first. So let's duplicate this in form inputs 3 times, and then we are going to have the one for months, and so this is months. Let's say months label. So let's just duplicate this and say months. So months label, months inputs. Montero, and this is going to be placeholder of So we have the year, and we're going to change this. Let's select all using Control D, and then I'm going to say right here, year. So we have the for year label, year inputs, and if we click save, we already have our different setup done. So now we are done with the first part of the design. So move on to the center one. So in the action, I called it action is because this is like a button, you understand? So when the user clicks on this, it's going to give them the result. If we look at the completed, yeah, so if they click on it, they are going to get a result, you understand? So that's why I called it action. So you need to give descriptive names to your whatever you're doing so that you'll be able to fall back to it and you'll be able to, I think, best understand your code when maybe you leave it and you're trying to come back to it to try to understand. Okay, and for this placeholder, we need to give it y, yeah, for the year. That's going to be the placeholder. So for the action setup, it's going to be simple. We'll just say action, we create an action div, and inside it, we are going to have a line, just a div for the line, and we'll create a button just below it. Sorry, my bad. Button, yeah. And then the button is going to have an ID of action button. So let's give it an ID of action dash button. Remember, this ID I'm giving it is so that I can be able to identify it or select these elements in using my JavaScript. So when we get to the JavaScript, you're going to understand it better. So action button. Inside the action button is going to have an image. So this image is coming from the assets. So if you say dot slash assets, this asset is provided by the front-end mentor. Like when you download the zip file, the zip folder, you are going to have all these assets inside. So the asset images and then icon arrow.svg. So this is the svg that we're going to use. And then give it an alt of icon arrow. I use because I'm using WinSub, it kind of just suggested that line of code to me. So that's why I accepted it. So you also can use WinSub. And then for our last, let's see what we have. So this is what we have currently. It's looking all bland, but when we get to the CSS, you are going to see how we are going to design it and make it look beautiful. So just stick with me for now. So for the results, we are going to create a results div. Inside the results div, we are going to have three different other divs. So we have the years, the months, and the days. You understand? So those are the different results that we have. So we are going to create one for years. So since all of them have kind of like the same design, so we'll do for the years first, and then we'll duplicate it for the other aspects, for the other parts. So it's going to be two. We're going to use spans for each of them. And the first span is just going to have dash dash because that's what is in the design. While the second span is going to have the years. And then each of them is going to have a class. So we'll give it a class of value because that's when the value is going to come there. And then we're going to also give it an ID of years dash results. So this is the year's results. And this other one, I'm going to give it a class of label. So this is the label for um, this particular year's results. You understand? So we've done for years. So let's duplicate it for the other parts. So we have years, we have let's see months and then days, months and days. So let's see class of months, then so months and months. So we have months. Is there any other one we need to change? No. So for this one, we are going to use the other method, which is using Control D to duplicate and select. Then we have days. Yeah. So I think this should complete our setup, and so that we can let's save and see what we have currently. So this is what we have currently. Pretty simple. Let's go back. So I forgot to mention, so let me quickly mention it. Anytime you are loading your JavaScript, either below or above, you always put defer. And this defer is such that it will wait for the HTML and the CSS to load up first before it loads your JavaScript. It's just for performance optimization and some other stuff. So just always put defer. It's best practices for you to do that. So for now, we are done with our HTML setup, and we are going to be moving on to working with CSS. So we are going to be working with our CSS. So remember, we imported the CSS here, and to check if it's working, let's do something quickly in our CSS. So let's just do body, and let's say um, BG background of black. Let's give it a BG background of black to check if it's working. Okay, yes, it's working very well. So let's currently remove this. Before we start, I would like us to do a few things. So if we look at our style guide, they use the fonts, which is Poppins. Though they provided the fonts in our assets here, but I'd like us to use a different method to, get the fonts. And we can get the fonts by going to fonts.google.com, and you can search for Poppins, and you can just click on get fonts and click on get embedded code. When you click on get embedded code, instead of link, you click on import. So with this, you can copy the import statement here and go and paste it at the top of your CSS. I can press Alt Z my VS Code so I can wrap, or you just click. I think there's a way for you to do word wrap. Um, I can't remember, but the shortcut is Alt Z for word wrap to toggle word wrap. So we are going to first things first. We will need to do some resets every time you want to work with CSS. The best thing for you to do so that your design will be consistent for you to do some resets. So first thing we are going to do is say margin 0, to say padding 0, and then box dash sizing should be border box. So what margin 0? This asterisk is selecting every element on your page. So either be it a div, H1, UL, whatever element, is selecting every one of them and is resetting their styles. So they give it a margin of zero, padding of zero, because most of them come with a default padding. So it makes sure that you are able to control your what's it called now? Control the designs, the styling of your website of your elements. So because some of these styles, like your heading styles now, they come with a particular padding around it. Same with your paragraph, same with other your UL and stuff like that. So it's best thing for you to reset it so that it can give your own specific style. And this box sizing border box just to make them consistent. So we are going to do that. And also we'll be working with something called CSS variables. And it might be new to some of you guys, but to some of you that it's not new. You can just go to search for CSS variable, and I think there should be a code for, yeah. So you can come to W3 Schools to learn more about CSS variables. So they are, you can read through, but I will not be going to. But the basic thing is you have a root and you define some set of variables, and then wherever you want to repeatedly maybe use a particular variable that you have set, you can just use the vr keyword, and inside the brackets you pass in the name of the variable. Now the reason why we are using CSS variables is because let's say we have a particular color. So now if you come here in our style guide, we've they've given us a color, purple, red, and some other colors. So what if we want to use purple in like 30 different places in our style? Do we now need to keep repeating this purple color everywhere? No. So the best thing for us to in code, there's something they call DRY. Do not repeat yourself. So if there's a way for you to um, maybe shorten the way you are going to keep using something every time, then do it. You understand? So for CSS, you can use variables. So how do you use variables? So at the top, I'm just going to comment here and write variables. And like I said, we use variables by starting with the with this colon and saying roots, and then we open a curly bracket. And if you look at it, what's it called? The Windsurf AI has already helped me to populate all I need. So I'm going to click on tab, and you see that it populated some of this for me. So some of the primary color, it says primary color, I might change it to uh, purple. So let's change this to purple. So primary color, just change this to purple. So let's just change this to purple. So to use a variable, you don't need to prefix it to a dash dash. Inside is your root. You say dash dash and then the variable name. So all these are variable names. Secondary color is a variable name. Neutral color orange is a color 100 is a variable name. So purple, we are going to change this to red, or we can call it error. And then they call this gray, gray. So we are going to stick with what the style guide called them. We are going to take this control um, D. I don't want to change the first three because this last one I'm going to change to black. So I'm going to call this gray. Yeah. So gray 100, gray 200, and gray 500. Let me check. Okay. And then the last one is going to be black. Let me confirm that they're actually the same. So 94, 86, 44. 94, 86, 44. Because most sometimes some of these AI can hallucinate. So we are going to clear this. We are going to name this black instead. And also there's a white. Yes, there's a white. So it did not give us the white. I'm going to copy this value, come to our CSS and give it a new variable, and then and then we're going to paste it, so white, and then we're going to save it. So yeah, so this is our variable. And then in our body, let's begin to use the variable so that you see how we use the variable. So we're going to say in our body, we want to style our body, and we're going to give a background color. So background color, and we're going to say we want it to be a variable. So this is how you use your variable. You pass in the var keyword, and then inside these brackets, that's where you're going to pass your variable. So you can do shift space bar to for it to show a drop down of all the variable you have created. Like I said, shift, you hold, sorry, not shift, you hold your control and space bar. So the variable we are going to use is gray 100 for our background. And if I click save, come back to our style, you might not really see changes now, but when we, okay, for you to see a change, let me make the background of our container. Let me make the background of our container white. So let's select our container, and I'm going to make the background color a variable of white. If I click save and go back, you see that our container is white. Spanning, it's spanning the full width of the screen. And then this is the body. This is the container. You understand? So let's move on, and we are going to be seeing the changes as we keep coding. So on our body, we need to do some styles. So let's just make all the text, all the color on our body. So we'll give it a variable and give it the gray 500. And I'm following the styles. You understand? Like I'm following the styles, like what's they did here. So you understand? So you can always, when you're working on it on your own, or when you're following through with this video, I expect you to follow through with this video, like code along. So don't just watch from beginning to the end. Try to code along. Try to see what try what I'm doing and see if it works on your end. And if it's not working, try to tweak one or two things. If it's working, try to change some values so that you'll be able to understand how some of these values work. Hope you understand. So we are going to give it a font family. Remember, we imported a font up here. Maybe go back to our font selection that we did. You see that we can copy the font family. And let's go back. And we're going to replace this. If we save it, you see that the font has changed, and then it's kind of grayish. You understand? So let's keep moving. And we're going to give it a, I think yeah, so they gave it body copy. In our style guide, they gave a font size, they said for the inputs to be 32 pixels. So what I can do is I can just make the whole text on the page. It's just a choice, you understand? But you can decide to do it or not to do it. So let's do 32 pixels, and we'll give the mean height. That's the minimum height of this body should be what? So I'm going to give it 100 VH. 100 VH means sorry, I wanted to do a comments. This is 100% of the viewport height. You understand? That's what 100 VH means. So you can read more about viewport height, minimum height, and other stuff like that. So we are going to give it a width of 100%. We're going to give it a display of flex. So if we go to our design And yeah, let me just justify center and alignment and center, and I'll explain to you why we are using flex box. When we look at our design, the design we are trying to achieve, notice that it's at the center. You understand? It's at the center of the page. So we need a way for us to make sure that our documents, our design is at the center. So if I save this and go back to our design, you see that it's currently is at the center, but the layout is not properly placed. Don't worry, as we keep coding, you will see better results. So that is for the body, and we're going to move on to um, let's check. Okay, we have the main and then we have the container. So this main, I want the main to just have a set width. So let's give the main a set width of, let's say, a width of let's say 50%. Say 50%. Okay, I think we can reduce it a little to let's say 40%. Okay, we can work with this. So, and in our container, which is the main element. You know, this div is just this main is just the one holding it, and then this container is the main one holding all the other content. You understand? So the container, we have already given it a background color. What we're also going to do is we are going to also give it a display, and the display is going to be of flex. We're going to give it a flex direction of column. Remember, we have two different flex direction. We have the flex that moves from flex row moves from left, flex row from left to right, while flex column moves from up to down. Hope you understand. So flex direction row moves from left to right. Flex direction column moves from top to bottom. Hope you understand. So that's it. We are going to make it flex, and if you save it, it's still going to be the same because all of them are stacked on each other. But then we can now give them a gap. We'll say gap of 3 rem, and you see that they have a space between each of them. You understand? That's why we give them that flex property so that we can give them a gap. So next thing is we are going to, if you look at the design, we have a border radius. You understand? So we are going to use a shorthand property instead of setting border radius top, top left, um, top right and stuff. I'm going to say border, normal border radius. And for the top left, we are going to say it should be 1 rem. For the top right, we'll say 1 rem. For the bottom right, we'll say 10 rem. And for the bottom left, we'll say 1 rem. And then we save and go back. So this is the top price. The first value is for this particular part here. Second value is for the particular part here. That's the top right. Third value, you see that it has the most curve, 10 rem, and then bottom left, that's the fourth value. That is what we are doing here. And then we also need to add a padding. So let's just add a padding. Padding is the space inside. Remember, padding is the space inside the container. So the padding, we're going to give it a padding of let's say 3 rem. And let's see. Okay. So I'm still going to make this particular section a flex. So but just follow through, just follow through. So after setting the container, I think we can move on to the input styles. Yes, let's move on to the input styles. So let's say input styles. I'm just adding the comments. So for our inputs, I think it's called inputs, right? Yes, it's called inputs. So for our inputs, we also want to give it a display of flex and a gap of 2 rem. By default, the default styling, the default direction of flex is row. So we don't need to come here and say flex direction row again. You understand? Because that's the default. So we are just going to remove it. If I save this, you see that we have it's currently is moving out of the frame, but we are going to fix that in a few minutes. So we're also going to move on to the form input. So remember we have 3 form inputs, 1, 2, 3. So we are going to say dot input, and we are going to say dot form dash input. And for this, we are going to give them a display of flex, give them a gap of 1, and give them a flex direction of column. So instead of 1, we are going to say 1 rem. And this is for the space inside. So that's this, 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 and this, and then the invisible span that we put below here. You understand? So that's for the form inputs. And then we are going to let's target the label. So we have the label, we have the inputs, and then we have the span. So let's target each of them. So we're going to say let's copy this and we say label. So for now, we'll not add anything. We'll just leave it like that. We'll say inputs. So these are the things we want to style for the form inputs. And then the last one is error. So instead of just saying span, you can just target the class name. Call that error. We'll say dot error. You understand? So for our error, for now, let me just add something in here so that you see what we're talking about. Error and if we go back, you see the error elements here. So we are going to style each of them. So let's start with the error elements, and I'm just going to say the color is going to be a variable. Remember that variable that we set above, the variable of red, and if we save that, we'll see the style is red. And then we are going to make it smaller. So that's by using the font size, and let us give it a font size of 0.7 rem. And then we're also going to say okay, for now let's just save it and see. So it's kind of the space between this and this is kind of too much because of the rem, the gap that we gave them. So what you can do is you can say margin top and give it a minus. So say margin top -1 rem. If we say that, you see that it has moved closer to this element, just like a normal input. So I think we can remove this out since we have already styled the error element. And then we can move to our label. So let's just say for our label, we want to give it a font size of 1 rem. Okay, I think it's smaller now. And yeah, we can move to, I think that's all we need for this, if I'm not mistaken. Let's say, okay. And we can also do something. See, if you notice, it's all in capital letter. So what we can do is for the label, we can also say text transform, and we'll say uppercase. And if we save that, we see that they are all in all caps. So yeah, we can leave that like that and move on with the code. So we are moving on to our inputs. And first thing we want to do is let's give it a padding of top and bottom 0.5 rem, and then for left and right it will be 1 rem. So that's shorthand for padding. So this is setting, padding is setting the inner 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 spacing. So for top and the bottom, we want to give it a 0.5, and from left and right, we want to give it 1 rem. So if we save that, we'll see that it has already given it a space up and bottom, left and right. So I'm going to change the sizing. Well, first, let's change the font weight. If you look at the style, let me first add this, and let's choose 3600. If you look at the style, you'll see that it is very thick. The font is very thick. So that's the font weight. So we are going to save this, and we'll see that it's kind of thicker. I don't know if it's, yeah, it's kind of thicker. And then we can also, what else can we do? We can also give the border radius of, let's say, 0.5 rem. We can also add a, um, let's give it a border, and we'll say 1 pixel solid, and we'll say a variable. Let's give it a variable of dash dash. Let's see, I think grade 100 should work. Or let's use grade 200 and see how it is. Oh man, grade 200. Okay, I think this should be nice. Let's see if it's consistent with the design. Okay, the design is not so kind of curvy, so we can reduce the border radius to something like 0.3. Okay, makes more sense. And then the width, let's change the width to something like 3 rem. Okay, this is too small. We can't even see the input. Let's change it to something like 9 rem. Okay, 09 rem. And then we can change the what's it called? The font size. Font size. To increase the font size, let's say 2 rem. And if we save this, okay. I think it's coming together. I think it's coming together, but it's still kind of floating out. And let's see what we can do to reduce that. Well, first off, this outline color, I want it to be purple. If we go to our, because I've gone through these already, like all these designs. So if you go to active states, yeah, you see the active states. In the active states, the outline is it's blue. I'm sorry, purple. So we can do that, and then the active state. So let's make it. We can say outline color will be a variable. Sorry, variable, and then we are going to use variable purple. So, and for some reasons, this is kind of really big. So let's see what we can do. Should we increase the width? For now, let's just increase the width. And let's see if that works. Okay, for now, let's just leave the width out. 50, and it works well. Okay, and let's go back to our input styles. So we've added the font weight, border radius, um, font size, outline color, and then the arrow. I think we should be done with this. Is there any other styles we are missing? Okay, if there's any other styles we are missing, we are going to come back. Or let's check. Okay. Instead of, if you look at it, the color is black. So let's keep the color consistent with what we have as the background. So we are going to say the color for this will be variable. If I'm not mistaken, it should be 200. We set, let's see. Okay, it's not 200. Let's change it to, okay, I think it was 500. Yes, 500. Yeah, 500 is perfect. So I think that should be it for this. And let's see the design. This is a little bit smaller. So let's go back to the label and let's change this to like 0.8 rem and give it a font weight of, let us say, bold. Okay, I think I can live with this for now. Yeah. So let's move on to our action. So call dot comment action styles. So that if you notice, I'm always styling my code. It's best practice for you to, I'm sorry, I'm always commenting my code. It's best practice for you to comment your code so that I can easily, fall back and quickly go back to where you are. So let's say if I want to quickly let's say I have like about 300 lines of code and I'm looking for styles or something. I can quickly just maybe even search for something like action. You understand? And then I can just easily navigate there. You understand? So it's always a nice thing for you to comment your codes and just generally makes your code easy to understand. So for our action styles, I don't think we should be doing much here, but let's see. We have, so I think for now we are done with our input, so we can collapse this. Now let's also collapse our result and focus majorly on our action. So we have a class of action, we have a div of line, and then we have a button. So let's take our action. So we say dot action, and then we are going to say the width. Let us give it a width to be 100% of the parent element. And then we're also going to give it a position of relative. And yeah, so this position relative, I'm going to explain positioning to you for those of you that don't really understand. So I'm going to take a few minutes to just explain position relative to you. But let's see it in action first, and then we can I'll come back to the explanation. So the action we give it a width, 100% position relative, and we'll see why we give it a position relative soon. So let's move on to our line. For now, you might not really see anything much, but let's move on to the line. The line. So I was going to say dot action dot line, and this one is just simple. We'll just say width is also going to be 100%. Then the height is going to be 1 pixel, and then for the background color, we are going to use one of our variables up there. And we're going to use background color of 200. And if we save this, you see we already have a line. that's moving from um, the full width. So this is the full width. We gave it a padding. So this outer does not count. This is the full width. So what we are going to do is we are going to now take this our button, and when we are done styling this our button, we want to place it at this tip here. That's why we gave the parent a position of relative. But I'll come back to that. Let's quickly style our button. And yeah, we'll say action, and we're going to style our button. So our button is going to have a background color, our variable purple. Let's have a background color of purple, see it, and then we'll just give it a default width, and we can just say width to be 5 rem, and then we'll say give it a height 5 rem. Want to position the image that's inside it to the center, so we'll just give it a display of text. I'll say align items center. Just specify content also, sorry, to the center. So when we do that, we also want to do, so we have this. So we are going to remove this. I think this should be the border. So we are going to remove the border. I'll say border none. Then if you look at the original design, it is rounded. What we are going to do is we are also going to give it a border radius. If you want to give a rounded border, the best thing to give it 50%. So if we check what we have here, so we are moving close to the design, and yeah, so this is what we have. But let's just make the cursor to be pointer, to be a pointer cursor. And let's see, where is it? Okay, button. So cursor, we'll say pointer. If we save it, yeah, so we already have cursor to be pointer. So I think that should be it for our button styles. So now I want to position it to be on top of this. Look at our original style. That's how it is. So it's at the top of this place. So what I'm going to do is the best way for us is going to do that. So I'm going to comment here and just say positioning styles. You understand? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say position is going to be absolute, and then we are going to give it a so let us save it and see what we have first. So position absolute. You see now it has removed it from the flow of the content. If we comment out this position absolute, you see that it's still in the flow of the content. You understand? So it's still regarded as one of the, like it's still stacked on top of each other. When I explain positioning to you, you are going to understand it better. So what we are going to do is remove the position absolute. If I save it, you see that it's already removed from the flow. We are going to give it a right positioning. So we are going to say position it to be right at 0. If we save, you see that it is right 0. And then want to make sure it is at the center. So the best way for us to do it is we are going to say from the top, position it 50%. If we save it, it's still going to be there because the container is not very large, it's just very little. And then we are going to use a kind of, I say magic trick, but it's just CSS. We say transform, and I want to translate it on the y-axis. Yes, translate x, translates y. So I'm going to translate it on the y-axis. I'll say minus 50%. And if we save this, see that it has been positioned to be exactly in the center. So let me finish the styling of this whole document, and then we are going to come back to explaining the position relative and position absolute so that you can better understand what we did there, so it won't look like magic to you. So you can still go on to learn by yourself, but I'll really want to give you a brief overview so that it will be easy for you when you're learning from the net or you're reading a blog post later on. So I think this should conclude our styles. But before we move on, we also have active state for our button. So on over, it should be black. So if you look at it, currently we don't have any on over property. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this and use a pseudo element and say over. And what do we want to do? We want to give it a background color. We want to give it a background color variable. The variable is going to be our black. We're going to be using our black color. If we save that, but I don't like the way it's sharp. So what you can do is you can just give it a little bit of transition, kind of like transition state. So what we'll do is we'll say transition, we'll give it a transition property all. Want to transition all elements, give it a duration of 0.3 seconds, ease in out, and that should do. So if we over, I see that it's more smooth, it's not sharp again, it's more smooth. So let me make this smaller. That's the image, yeah. That's the image. So I'm going to make it smaller. So let's make it smaller. So I'm going to say dot action button. I keep spelling button that way. Button, and then we have the image tag that we use. And then what we want to do, just want to give it a weight. It's already centered in the middle, so we'll just give it a weight. And let us say, I don't know, let us say 50%. Wants to be a 50% of the sprint container. I don't know if that changed anything. Let's see. Let me see if I reduce it by 20%. Okay, it changed. So let's just leave it at 50%. And if you notice, what I'm using, sometimes I'm using percentages. I'm using percentages for responsiveness, so that even on smaller screen, it's going to still take up 50%. So these are relative measurements. You understand? Instead of using absolute measurements. So you can go on to read more on that. So let's say we should be done with our action styles, right? Yes. And then let's move on to this our results. So we're going to make comment and say results styles. Yeah, results styles. So for our results styles, I don't think we should be doing much here. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to display. First of all, let's just say results. Is it results or results? You can close our actions since we are done. Okay, results is called results. So we are going to give it also a display of flex, and we'll give it a flex direction of column, and I don't think we need to give them a gap, and I'll tell you why in a reason. So currently there's no much change, but let's just keep adding stuff. So I want to make sure that they are aligned to the stats. That's to this beginning part. You understand? So if I save that, you might not see much change. So, but I'm just putting this to make sure it's aligned to the start, and then also justify content also to flex start. Yeah, and then let's give it a font size. Then first set of 6 frame should do. Ooh, this is really big. I think okay, yeah. I noticed my what's it called? My Windows was increased, you understand? So let me make it default back to 100%, yeah. And now that it's at 100%, I don't really like the weight so much. It's too much. The weight is too large. Let's go back to where we set our weight and let's reduce it to about, let's say, 40. Okay, this should do. I think this should do. This should do. This should do. Okay, so let's go back to the bottom of our styles. So yeah, the front size should be 6 rem, and we are also going to make them bold, just like our design bold, and make sure they are close to each other. So first thing I want to say font weight. If I just say bold, let's see how bold it will be. I think it can be bolder. Let's say 900. I think this should work. And then line height. So once you give them a line height. So line height is the spacing between each of them. So if I just say 1 rem, you see that everything is tightly packed together. You understand? So let's change it to like let's say 4 rem. 4 rem is still too close to each other. So let's change it to 6 rem. Okay, yeah. So I think this is closer to what the design says. And let's see, it's all black. So we need to change the color to variable, and we are choosing the black. But this our value, this our dash where our value is going to be shown, result is going to be shown is purple. So we are going to select that, say dot result, and what's it called? What are they called? So value. So we have values in all these. So we say dot value, and we're going to give them a color. I don't know how to spell a color of variable and I say purple. Yeah. So I think um, this should do to complete our what's it called? Our UI. So this is the let's say the front end, the UI. I think it's as close as possible to what we have here, if not exactly close, right? Months, yes, months, yes. Okay, so I think we can work with this for now. So this should conclude our CSS, and we'll be moving to the most important aspect, which is our JavaScript. So yeah, if you've been following along, congratulations on reaching this part. If you've stayed with me up to this part, then you've done very well. You understand? So congratulations, give yourself a thumbs up. Okay. Before we move on to our JavaScript, I remembered vividly I said I wanted to, explain briefly the concept of positioning. That's where did we even do positioning? I think it was in our maybe called an action. Yes. So action. it gave our action. That's if we cover this, give our action a position of relative, and then we gave our button a position of absolute, and with that we're able to position it very well on this. So if we go to, let's say, go to a drawing application, and let me try to get a shape. Yeah. So let's say we have our web page. Let's say this is our web page, and then we have some elements. Let me just create another box. So we have this div in our web page. So now what happens is, if we want to use position of relative, we use position relative and absolute positioning to be able to position elements anywhere on our web page. So let's say, if you go to some web page, you see one button at this. Let's say there's a button, rounded button at this place. Yes. And then this button, if you click on it, you can use it to scroll back to the top. I'm pretty sure a lot of you must have used it. So what happens is that that button here is positioned absolute to your screen. So whatever, even though sorry, even though you are scrolling, it keeps staying there. So that particular button is absolute to the whole screen. So what happens is, if you have different elements, so let's say you have these elements inside here. So they have a div. Inside that div, you have an image, or you have another div that you just give a circle, make border radius circle, just like our button here. And then you now, for this your what's it called now? Your button. Let us give this a BTN. Yeah. So for this your button now, you now give it a position of absolute. What happens is, it is positioned, this absolute you are giving to this button is going to be positioned relative to the highest container with relative. So if this your div that is the major parent, let's say this is the parents, you understand? So this parent, if you don't give it a position of relative, what happens is, by the time you give this a position of absolute and give it a top of 0, it will come here. You understand? A top of 0 and then right of 0. It will come to this edge here. You understand? That is because this our this already has a relative. Let me use a text. Already has relative. You understand? It has a position of relative, but this is a button that has a position of absolute. But if you want this button, remember this button is initially inside, like it leaves the parents of this button is this big div. If you want it to be positioned relative to this div, you have to give this div also a position of if we duplicate this, I have to give the position of relative. So when you give the position of relative and you give the position of what's it called now, absolute, it's going to come down to this place here. So we give the top 0 and right 0. So when you give an element a position, let's say absolute positioning, you have to give it a top and 0. So now that is kind of like the brief overview of the difference between relative and absolute. So absolute takes it out from the flow of the elements. So let me give you an example. Let's say inside this our parents div, we also have another let's just use this. We also have another div here, div, and let's say this div is just maybe some paragraph. Yeah. and then we now have our button. You understand? So this is the flow. Let's say this button does not have any position absolute on it. It's just a normal. You have a parent, and then inside the parents you have two children, paragraph and a button. You understand? What will happen is, let's say we now have another another element, so that I'll explain the concept very well to you. You also have another element, and this one is, let's say this one is an image. Let's call it image. You understand? So we have one, two, three elements inside this parent. So what happens is, excuse me, by the time we give these parents a relative positioning, and then we want to maybe put this button, want it to be at this position, let's say at this place here. Let me mark, let's say at this position here. What will happen is, by the time we give this a position of relative, it removes it from the flow of the application, and this will now move up. You understand? This will now move up. So we will now have this on top every other thing. So this button, I don't know if I can give it a background. Um, Let me give it a color. No, not this. Yeah, I give it a color. Okay, I'm trying to create a distinction. So it positions this above these other elements. You understand? So by the time you give this a position of absolute, it will remove it from the flow. Remember, it was always in the flow. You understand? Remember, it was always in the middle. But because you gave it absolute position and give it top zero, left, top zero and left of zero to position it here. So what if we now want to position it to this place here? What to do is we'll give it a bottom, let's say um, bottom of what now? Let's say bottom of maybe 10 pixels, and then from the right, we give from the right position, we give a right of, let's say, 10%. You understand? That's what we put it at this position. So even if you have another element down here that spans across it, this button is going to be over every one of them. Hope you understand. So that is what we did here. That we're able to position is our button at this edge. Now that is by the way. For the, if you go back to our code, we did something. We said top 50% and transform translate minus 50%. What happens now is, we said we want this to be at, if we select this, now is, initially we gave it a right of 0 0. So that means it's going to be at the extreme edge. So let us say it's at the right of 0, and then we gave it a top 50%. So what it will do is, it's going to take this top here, the top of this element. I'm going to move it down 50%. So this is the center, right? But we're going to move it here. You understand? 50%. Let's say this is the line. I don't know if I can draw a line. So let's say if I want to draw a line from here to here. Yeah. I don't know if that's the center, but yeah. So let's just leave it that way. And you will just understand. So now this now, if this is 50%, it's going to position it below here. But what we want to do is want to be able to center it. You understand? We want to be able to center it so that it will be at the center of this whole element. So that's why we gave it a transform and translate Y. So this transform translates Y. What it does is, it kind of push, translate means to move. You understand? Want to move it on the y-axis. Remember, this is the y-axis. want to move it on the y-axis, how much do you want to move it on the y-axis? If you say transform 50%, no, it was originally on 50%. If you transform it 50% again, it will move down 50%. I hope you understand me. But if you are moving opposite of, if you move it opposite of where it's coming from, minus 50%, what to do is it's now going to shift this up minus 50%, thereby putting this button in the middle. Hope you understand. So the concept is actually something that by the time you keep doing it, you are going to understand it. So I just want to give you a brief overview. It's not something that you should crack your head about. It's something that is relatively very, very easy. Or you know that anytime you want to give an element, a child element, now let me make it clear, a child element, anytime you want to give a child element a position of absolute, make sure you are giving the parent a position of relative, except if you don't want it to be relative to this particular parent. So let's say we have another div. So we have a big div. Let's make it no color and move to the back, send backward. Yeah. So let's say we have this div. This is a grandparent. This is a parent, and this is a the children. So we have one, two, three. So I think I'm done with this line. I can delete it. I think I can erase this. Yep. So now let's say this button, we don't want it to be absolutely positioned to this parent, but want it to be absolutely positioned to this parent. So we are going to remove this relative. Yeah, we are going to remove this relative, and we are going to put it on. If I go back, we are going to put it on this element. Now that means does not have this parent element does not have a relative anymore. So now it will not now be this button will not now be relative to this particular parent, but now be relative to the higher, the next whatever parent is higher. You understand? If this parent also does not have relative, it will be relative. It will not be absolute to this. I hope you get me. So what it does is the absolutely positioned element checks, does my parents have a position of relative? If yes, position me relative to my parents. If no, check the next generation, the upper generation, that the grandparents, which is this one. Does it have a position of relative? If yes, position me absolutely to this grandparent. If no, check again. If there's no parents, there's no grandparent that has the position of relative, to position it relative to the body. Remember, this is our body. This is our body. You understand? This is the what's it called now? This is our body. So if the action does not have a relative position, and the next container too does not have a relative position, and the next main does not have a relative position, it's going to position it relative to the body. I hope you understand. So that's just kind of like an overview of relative positioning, and I hope I'm able to, explain it, break it down for you so that you can understand very well. So now that I've done due diligence to positioning, and you can try it out by yourself, create a div, create another div inside, create another small div, make it rounded, and just try to use this example, you understand, to position things around, use top zero, right zero, use 50%, use pixels to position it, and see how it works. Because by they say practice makes perfect. When you practice something, that's when you'll be able to fully understand it. So now we are going to be moving to JavaScript to add the functionalities to our application. Okay, so now we'll be moving on to our JavaScript and implementing JavaScript so that it can function. So right now, if we do anything, nothing is working. Nothing is working. And yeah, so let's go to our JavaScript and please make sure you are put the script tag is below the body, and then you've imported the file you need to import, and you also put the first attributes on the script tag. So we'll begin the script. So for the designs, we'll look at the designs once more. So this is for the errors. When all of them are empty, this is what's going to show. You see that the label is going to change color, the box itself, the input is going to change color, and this span tag. Remember, we put a span tag under the inputs. It's already read, so I'm just going to put in the text. Also, for if they are not valid, if the inputs are invalid, we have to put in a valid. You have to put in a what's it called, an error for that also, and then error for the whole form. So let's go with our script tag and let us start. So the first thing we are going to do is we are going to, let me minimize this, close this. First thing we are going to do is we are going to say document. So we are going to listen to the document. So say what the an event listeners to the document. And I'll explain why in a few minutes. We'll say document dot add event listener. So what event listener do you want to listen for on the document? So the event wants to listen for is the DOM content loaded. So say DOM content loaded. And what is DOM content loaded does, let me first pass in the arrow function. And we can close this. Yeah. So what this DOM content loaded does that it waits, remember we input our script tag below here. So it waits, it checks as this HTML and CSS loaded. Fine. Now if all has loaded, that means our page is ready. That means our page is ready. Then you can do whatever is inside this function. No, this is an arrow function. You understand? Instead of writing normal function and then passing whatever I want to write. You understand? So this is the arrow function. So what we want to do is whatever code we put inside here is going to run. So it's inside here, we'll be writing the logic, all the logic for our application. You understand? So here we're writing all the logic for application. So, but before we start, we need to do first things first. We need to select all these ID. Our label, our inputs, um, the errors, what else? The button. We need to get the action button. What else? We need to also get this value because this is where we are going to be inputting the what's it called now? The results after we are done with the calculation. So that's what we are going to do first. So let's create let's get label element first. I'm gonna say const um day label and then month label. So all we are saying is saying documents dot get elements by ID. So once we get the labels by ID, if we go back, let's confirm that what the AI gave us is correct. Let us check. Yes, so we have once you select the labels, that's the day label, month label, and the year label. Let's check. So we have the day label, we have the idea of day label. And why we're selecting this is because we'll need to change the color for when there's an error. We also have the month label and then the year label. So That's what we have saved there. So we'll say document dot get element by ID and get this element, and we are going to store it in a constant. This is a constant variable. We can use a normal variable saying let, but it's better to use constant since we are not going to be changing the value of what's stored here. So also we are going to get our inputs. So say get inputs elements. And if I press tab, so what happens is when you comment your code, the AI or whatever you are using is going to be able to understand what you want to do and can help you read your code. And it just helps you to make your development fast, you understand? So, but once you understand the concept of what you are doing, you know you want to get your element, but make sure to always confirm. So let's confirm our input element. So go to our input element. We have input, we have day dash input, that's the ID, month dash input, year dash input. But if you check, it does say day. So what we'll do is at the back of each of these, I'm going to hold Alt and click, and then I can click dash input. Understand? So we have the day input, month input, year input. Let's confirm once again. Day input, month input, year input. Okay. So next up, we'll get our error. So we have the year error, month error, day error, and get error, error element. And if I click tab, so we have the day error, month error, year error. And then we need to get our action button, action button. And let's see if it gives us, okay, it gives us. So this is just to speed up your development process. It's not to replace you as a developer, you understand? It's going to speed up your development process. So it's advisable for you to use it so as to be fast instead of having to type, you understand? So let's confirm our action button. So ID action dash button, that's the ID we give our button. Action dash button, okay. And finally, we need to get our results. So yes, results, month results, days results. So it gets results, sorry, elements. And let's see. So is there's S after each of them. So years, months, days. So years results, months results, and days results. I think that should be it for all the things we need to select. So now that we have selected everything, then what we are going to do now is we are going to add an event listener to this button so that when a user clicks this button, you understand what they wants the application to do. No, the first thing we want it to do is maybe to do a validation to validate that okay, these inputs are not empty, and we can so validate that these inputs are not empty. So for let us take a pause here and quickly do something. If you notice this arrow button, we don't need this arrow button here. You understand? Want to remove them away. So the best way for us to remove them is to if we go to this link W3 schools how to spell CSS hide arrow numbers. If you look at it, they have a code to remove arrows and spinners from an input. So what we are going to do is we are just going to copy this. So quickly copy and go to our CSS. Let's open our CSS. Go to the top of our CSS and just paste it. Okay, let's paste it after this. I'll just call this reset. Reset. Understand? And then if we save it, let's close it and go back to our code. I mean our design. I see that there's no arrow up and arrow down. It just makes our design more beautiful. Yeah. So sorry for the break here. Let's continue with our JavaScript. So what I was saying, we need a way forward that when we click this button, we want to validate all these inputs. You understand? So that's what we are going to do now. So we are going to add an event listener. An event listener, it listens for an event. There are different events. You can also check W3 schools for the different um, HTML DOM elements events. You understand? So I'm going to say action button dot add what wants to add an event listener. And the event wants to add is the event of click. So when a user clicks, wants to do something. So we are going to open an anonymous function, and this is where we are going to do the functions for to check if to check when it clicks. We are going to run whatever code is inside here. So the first thing we want to do is we are going to get the value. That's the day, the month, and the year. So, we have our inputs. These are our inputs, day inputs, month inputs, and year inputs. So it's just representing this. So we need to get the value from it. So when it user types 12, we want to be able to get this 12 and validate it. Or if there's no text inside, if there's no number inside, we want to be able to validate it. So what we are going to do is we are going to say const, we'll say day should be equals to day input if it has already given us the code. So we're going to say day inputs. These are our day input that we get from our input elements does value. Months, say month input dot value. Year input dot value. So now whenever we press if we console log clg, say console log day, and we click on save, or let's also do console log month and console log year. So when we click on save and go back to our code, if we inspect, let's remove this. Yeah. So if we inspect and go to the console, if you click on this, you see that there's nothing there. But if you click, say 12 and 03, and let's just say 2005, and click enter, you see we have the value. You understand? So we are getting the value from the input itself. So let's go back to the code. That's what we are doing here. So we are getting each of the value from the inputs. You understand? So now what we are going to do is um, we are going to check. We are going to check if the if there's no day, if there's no day passed, or there's no month, or there's no year. What do you want to do? We want to make sure that we show an error. You understand? We show error, and then we are going to return. So this return is saying that if there's no day, there's no month, there's no year, that means there's no value inside. Want to show an error and then return. That means this return is saying don't do any other thing after this code, just stop. You understand? So don't do anything after this code, just stop. So for the show error, we are going to create a function outside this our button. Outside this our button, we're going to create helper functions. And for the first function we're going to create is we'll create the error empty. Say function error empty, and we'll just what the error empty is going to do is we are going to take the error, and we are going to add a text to it, like a text of this. Let's see, if you look at it, say this field is required, this field is required, and then we are going to also make our border red, and we're going to make our input also color of red. So that's what we are going to do in this our show error. So what person wants to do is want to say day error, we'll say day error dot text content. So say the error dot test content, this field is required. Month error dot test content, this field is required. Year error dot test content, this field is required. So if we just call this and say call error empty, and if we save it, let's see if it's going to give us any input. So this is there's nothing inside, there's nothing inside, there's nothing inside. If I just click um you, you see that it said this field is required, this field is required. That means you need to put something inside. So now we also want to make sure the border is color red, and the labels also are colored red. So we'll move on. Inside is our empty error. We're also going to say the input. We want to say the style. We'll say the style dot border should be equals to, we'll say, 1 pixel solid. And let's see if we can use our variable red here. If we cannot use it, then we'll just have to go and copy the color. So if I save this and test it again, yes, the variable red color works. So you see that we already have the border around about it. So this is how you can use JavaScript to style your um your HTML. So you say day input dot style, and then the style I want to use, you say border. I want to add this particular style. Also for our label, let's do for our label. We're going to say day label, and yeah, that's already giving us. So day label dot style dot color variable should be red. Month label style dot color variable red, and year label style dot color variable red. And if we save this, we should have the complete. Yeah, so we have it complete. So we are going to close this. We are done with our function error empty. So this runs when if there's no day input, there's no month input, and there's no year input. So now I want to also check. I want to say else if, and this one we want to write a condition. And what is the condition? We want to make sure that the day is greater. We want to make sure that the day is not greater than 31. You understand? We also want to make sure that the month is not greater than 12, because we have only 12 months in a year. And we also want to make sure that the our current year, so we are in 2025, want to make sure that the year they are putting from is in the past and not in the future. This one is trying to check the year 2027. It should return an error. You understand? So we want to check if you are first going to convert, because whatever you get from your input is going to be as a string. So we want to pass it. So say parse int, and we'll say day. I want to check is if day is greater than 31. I want to check, and if the month, we need to also parse int. Say parse int month is greater than 12, and yeah, we can't just say 2022. So what we can do is say we can create a variable here. Let's just say const current year, because we new dates, and say dot get full year. Yes. So if the parse int, if the year that these are passed is greater than the current year, so this is going to return the current year for us, 2025. So current year. So what do you want to do? You also want to show error and also return, sorry, return. You understand? So what error do you want to show? Now the error I want to show is error for invalid inputs. You understand? I'm going to create an error for invalid inputs. So let's create a function. Remember, this is all our helper function. We cannot just keep writing everything inside this place. It will make it all messy. So it's better we create functions that do this certain tasks. You know what functions are just block of codes that do something specifically. You understand? So they help us to modularize our code. They can be easily understandable, easily read, and anybody that comes there can easily read it and understand our code. You understand? So we're going to create a function, and we'll call this function. Sorry, we call this error invalid inputs, and then so what is error invalid inputs? We are going to also do almost the same thing that we did up here, just that we'll change the text content. So what we can do is we can just copy all these and put it here. But inside this text content, what we do say must be a valid day, and this one will say must be a valid month, and for the year we'll say must be in the past. If we look at invalid, there must be a valid day, must be a valid month, must be in the past. You understand? So I'm also going to check this. So if we save this and copy the function name, we'll put the function name after inside our checker. So I'm going to check if the day is greater than 31st, than 31, months greater than 12, or years greater than the correct year. Show this error invalid, and then we return. That means don't continue with the rest of the code. So if we go back and test it, so let's say we put in 32 and put in 13, and let's say we put in 2034, and we click, and I say must be a valid day, must be a valid month, and must be in the past. So I think our validation is coming together. And we also want to do it such a way that, let's say we now put something valid. Let's say we'll put 12 a day, and we'll put, let's say, 03, and then 2020, let's say 2020. 2020 is the past. And you click join. You see that it did not reset, it did not check, did not change it back, though it's actually correct. So what we'll do is we are going to add a reset. We are going to create a helper function called reset. So we'll say the function will be called function reset, and what it's going to do is going to help us to reset all these things that we set. So here we said, we had the text content, we gave the input a border, we also gave the labels red also. So what we are going to do is we are going to copy this, because we want to reset all this, and go to our reset. And for this, for the day error, we are going to remove it. So there will be nothing inside the day error. There will be nothing inside the month error. There will be nothing inside the year content. And for the input styles, all places we have red, we are going to change them to that is for the input. We'll change them to dash dash gray dash 200. And if you are wondering where this gray 200 is coming from, it's from our style. Remember our root style. So gray 200. You understand? So gray 200. And for this, instead of red, we'll take it back to um, gray dash 500. and if we save it, so this function reset, we'll call it at the top of the event listener. So remember, this is our button. Let me put a comment. Action button to run the application, to run the application. So what to do is, after we've gotten the day, the month, the year, we'll always try to reset it. So before we do, let's do it here. Let's do it here, and then Control V. Sorry, Control Z. We're meant to call the resets. Excuse me. Reset. So if we save this and go back, let's say we add a date in it. Let's say we have 55, 44 months. 55 and 44 is wrong. Let's say we have 333. You see that must be a valid month, must be in the past, must be a valid day. Let's say we had the 1st of January 2001, and we put it. You see that it's reset it because now this is a valid input. This is a valid input, so now it has reset it before it does the check. But if let's say one of these is still in the past, okay, for some reason everything, okay, everything has to be invalid. So let's say we have 12, we have let's say we have 13, we have um 39. That it brought out the error bar. So we need to also do validation for the year. We need to do validation for the month, and we also need to do validation for the day. So we are going to do that. But before we do that, okay, yes, we need to do validation for each of this year, month, and day. So I think that should be the next phase. Since if we're already doing the full validation for all of them. But what if the day is, let's say, 12 is valid, and the month and the year is not valid? You see that there's no error to show that the month is invalid and year is invalid. So let's work on that now. So what we are going to do is we are going to create another function for the validation of the dates. And or now that I think about it, I think it's best to create different validation for each of them. So we are going to create a validation for day. We are going to create a validation for month, and we are also going to create a validation for the year. You understand? So let's create the functions, and before we start populating them, say function validates. So say validates the day. Also say function to validate the month, and then another function to validate the year. You understand? So function validates the day, validates the month, and also want to validate the year. So I think the one that should kind of be easy to do, should we start with the day or the month or the year? Okay, let's see if we should start with, let's start with the month. I feel like the month would be easier for us to start with so that we'll go progressive. I don't want us to start with something hard and move to something simple. So we'll start from something simple and then we'll start moving to something hard. So for the month, what we want to do is we want to make sure that the month is greater than, the month is less than 12. We want to make sure that the month is less than 12 and is less than 12 but greater than or equals to 1. I don't know if you understand me. Okay, let's do it this way. Let's just write an if statement. So let's say if the month we are going to be passing in, because the month is not accessible now. So we are going to pass in a month. So the validate month is going to get a month. So we are going to say if the month is greater than 12, or the month is less than 1. That means if the month is 0, maybe they pass in 0 or they pass in -1, because users can be funny. They can pass in anything just to break the application. If the month is greater than 12 or the month is less than 1, what do you want to do? We want to create an error. So let's see if we close our action button. So we can have access to our month error. Where's our month error? So yes, month error. And then we can pass in its own text contents. So what we'll do is we'll say month error. We'll say month error, say must be a valid month. Or we can, I don't know, which other, or we can just say invalid month. Since we have used must be a valid month before, we'll just say invalid month. And then the style, we'll style the border, we'll style the border of the month input, and then we'll also style the color of the label. So months, if the month is greater than 12 or the month is less than 1, we are going to create this error, and then we are going to return false. Return false. So why we are returning false is because we are still going to call this function somewhere else. I want to know if, the function is validate month. So validate month, that means if there's an error, that means the month is not correct. So we'll just return false. But if this is not true, if this is if this function does not, if this if statement does not go through, that means the month is validated, and then we are going to return true here. I hope you understand. So we are checking, we're trying to validate the month, make sure that the month is a valid month. If the month is invalid, we return false and we do this error. Else we just come outside here and then we'll return true. So okay, now we are going to move on to validating our year. So what we are going to do is, we've not done the validate day. I know I'm leaving it. It's not complex, but you will learn something tangible there. We also learn something tangible here, but when we get there, you understand. So we'll say validate here. So for our validate here, we want to make sure that the year is not 0. We want to make sure that the year is not less than 0. You understand? And the year is also greater than the current year we are in. So what we can do is we can just create a constant, and we can say is year valid. So is year valid? What do you want to do? Want to say okay, it's going to be equals to validate here. Is also going to collect a year. So we are going to pass in a year to be able to validate the year. So we are checking for this year. So say is year valid? Say year less than 0, or year is greater than. Oh, let's copy the. We added a current year. Let's just make this a global. So just say Control X and put this here. I think that will be better. So we've gotten current year. So what I'm going to say is if year is greater than current year, so is year valid? So if the year is less than 0 or year is greater than current year, our year is not valid. You understand? So we are going to check. That means our year is So what we are trying to do is we're saying is here, but okay, instead of saying is here valid, we'll change this to is here invalid. So if any of these returns true, that means our year is invalid. So is here less than zero. If it's less than zero, return true, that means it is invalid. So what we'll do now is we'll now check if is here invalid is true. What do we want to do? We also want to take the year error. We'll say invalid year, and we're going to make the border of the year inputs, particularly the year input now. We are going to make the border of the year inputs to be red, 1 pixel solid red, and the label to be red also. Then we are going to, just like we did in validate months, also return false. And after that, in our function, we also, if if the year is not invalid, we also want to return true. Return true. So now we are done with the validate year, um, what's it called now, function. So I know we are just writing code right now, but we are going to test the code and come back to the function to see how it works. But just stick with me now. So for the validate day, so what before we validate the day, we need to check. We need to make different checks. So for days, for months that have 30 days, they cannot have. So let's say a user chooses a month that has 30 days now. They cannot add what's it called? 30, 31 is going to be invalid as a date for that particular month. So what we are going to do is once we create an array, we'll create an array at the top of our before we enter this document at event listener. And the array is going to be called 30. We are going to create different ones. We are going to create one for 30 days. Say 30 days. And 30 days is going to have the months. So which months have 30 days? You know, we have the same 30 days as September, April, June, and November, and then all the rest are 31, except for February. So what to do is we'll put in for 4, 6, 9, and 11. So September, April, June, and November for the 30 days. And then we also create one for 30, call this 30, not 30 days now, 31 days. And this will be equals to the rest of the months apart from February. So February is second, so we don't add it here. So we have January, March, May, and like that down to December. So we have 30 days and we have 31 days. So now we are going to go back to our validate day because for our validate day, we will need to pass in a day, the day, and the month. So we are validating a day for a particular month. So if the user passes in April now, that means they cannot have 31 as their birthday. If a user passes what's it called, January, they cannot have 32 as their birthday. So that's the validation we want to do in this validate day function. So just like we did in in validate here, we are going to also do a constant to check if the day is invalid. So what to do is we'll say const is, oh, excuse me, is day invalid. And how do you want to check if day is invalid? So we'll first check if 30 days, we'll put this because it's going to be long, so we'll put it in a bracket. We'll say if 30 days dot includes the month. In other hand, if 30 days dot includes the month and the day that we have passed is greater than 30, that means day is invalid. So this is one of the first checks we are going to do. If 30 days includes, so we are going to check, is there the month that the user is passing, is it available in this 30 days array? If it's there, we now want to check the day that the user passed, is it greater than 30 days? If it's greater than 30 days, that means the day, that day is invalid for this particular month that has been passed in. Hope you understand. So now we're going to check. We'll say or want to make another check for 31 days. Say 31 days dot includes the month. Want to check if the month is in the 31 days and the day is greater than 31. Let's save this. So if 30 days dot includes, want to check if the date, if the month is a month that has 31 days, and then the day that the user passed in is greater than 31, that is the day is invalid. We also want to check um, for February. Now this is for all the 30 days, all the months with 30 and all the months with 31. Also do another check. And we say if the month if the month is equals to 2. Let's say now the user has passed into, that's February, and the day is greater than 29. That is, the day is invalid. Or the last check, which is important, if the day is less than 1, the day is also what's invalid. So all these checks is what we are going to do to ensure that our day is valid. So this is what I was trying to tell you, that you're going to learn, the dot includes that comes with the arrays. So anything you can look through, like your strings, your arrays, anything you can look through, you can always check if that particular, let's say, variable includes whatever I want to check, and I'm going to return true or false if it includes it. So now that we have done our check, we'll now say if day is invalid, if is day invalid, what do you want to do? We want to say the day error dot text content should be an invalid day. The day input dot style dot border should be 1 pixel, just like we have done for the other month and the year. We are going to paint it red, and then we'll return false, just like the rest. So say return false. Outside, if is if it's not invalid, we'll return true, that it's valid. You understand? So that is it for the validate day. So what we can do now is we can create another external function, and this function is what we are going to use to validate everything. So we'll call that the function, we'll call the function, let's call the function validate validate date, the full date now, and it's going to take the day, the month, and the year. Understand? So we'll say call it the validate date. So what it does is, I don't know, Control Z. I don't know why that came up. What it does is it's going to validate, it's going to check each of these inputs. So we're going to call this function validate day, validate month, validate year to check if they all return false. You understand? So let me just write the function and you'll see what I'm talking about. If I want to check validate the day, and for validate day, we are passing in the day and the month, the day and the month. We want to check for this. I want to say and validates months and validates year. So if validates day, validate month, and validate year. So I'm trying to say, does this return true? Does this return true? And does this return true? If all returns true, we can now come here and say, let us do console log date is valid. Yeah. But if it does not return, if it's not validated, we'll say date is invalid, and then we'll return. That means we don't want the code to run again. So this validate day is what we'll be passing in. If we copy this and add the button, add event listener. So after we have done with our check, if the months and all this, after this we are going to call the validate date, and we are going to pass in the day, month, and the year. So for now, let's see what we have if it is working. So let's say we have 12 and we have 13. Let's open our, so because we have something that should show in the console. So and then we have 2001. So the month is invalid. Let's see if it's going to give us an invalid. So yeah, I say month is invalid. That is, the date is invalid. But if the dates, if the month is valid and we have something like 44, okay, I think there should be an issue somewhere. Let's go back to the code. Okay, we need to parse. Remember, we are making comparisons. We need to pass in. We need to make sure that this day, remember, this day is coming from this input here. You understand? So we need to make sure that they are they are represented as a number, just like we did here, not as a string. So we are going to parse each of these inputs. So we'll say parse int day, and also parse the int month, and here to parse the int month, and let's say parse int year. So let's go back to our code and try to validate. So let's say we have 44 for 12 and 2001. So this should work. Yes. So it's an invalid day. But if we have, let's say 12, 12 is a valid day for the month of December. And say date is valid. Say date is valid. But if we have, let's say 2035, if we clear our console and click this, you see that year is invalid. So that is the check we've done. So date is invalid, here is invalid. Now what we want to do is we've done the function to validate the day, and we've done the function, the dates, done the function to validate the day, month, year. And I think pretty much we are done with all our validation. And now what is left for us to do is to write the code to calculate how old the person is, the user is. So in years, in months, and in days. So that's what we are going to be going to next. Moving on, we are going to create the function that we're going to use to calculate the age of the user. So the function is going to be called after we've done our validation. So if our date is valid, that's when we want to call the calculate age, you understand? So the function is going to be called function calculate age. Yes. And then let's just call it inside here. Calculate age. And we can remove this date is valid since we already know that if the date is not valid, it will be passed. And also we can remove this date is invalid because it will just return. So calculate age. What do we want to do in the calculate age? A lot of logic is going to go into this, and I will need you to follow me through very well. Like I need your total attention in this particular lesson, this particular section, because they are going to be writing a lot of logic, and it's going to take a lot of critical thinking to understand it. So now, but before we start the calculation, we'll need to get the specific inputs that the user have already inputted. So remember, we are always doing pass int day, pass int month, and stuff here. So instead of always doing it when we need it, we can just create a constant and call it user birthday, birthday. So that's the day the user put that they were giving birth to. So that particular day. So we'll say want to parse int. And what are we passing it? The date, the input dot value. So we'll also do this for, so that is this day inputs, the value, that's the day that is a that's the user birthday. We'll also do the same for user birth month, and we'll do the same thing for passing and user birth year. So we have the user birthday, user birth month, and user birth year. And also want to do because we'll be making comparison between the user birth month and the current month, user birth year and the current year, and this comparison is what is going to give us, is going to guide our decision on which calculation we are going to use to calculate for the month and also for the year. So just stick with me and you understand it. And if you don't understand, you can always come back and watch this section again. So we are going to say const, we want to get the current, so we say the current, let's get the current day, and the new dates. So new dates dot get dates. For the current month, we say new date dot get month plus one. I'll explain why in a minute why we are adding plus one. And then the current year, we'll say new date dot get full year. So this will return to us 2025. This current day will return to us whatever the current date is today. So let's say today's date is 06, so it will return to us 6. But now for, if we did not add plus one, let's say we did not add plus one to get full months, and we are in June, right? Normally June is meant to be 6, but the way JavaScript arrange this is months. The first month is 0, the second month is 1, the third month is 3, and like that. So that's why we need to return. So June will be 5, and we need to parse it by saying plus 1. So that will get the accurate month. So be able to make comparison better. Plus 1, which will be equals to 6, and that will be June. I hope you understand. So we've gotten the user birthday, birth month, birth year, and we have also gotten the current day, current month, and the current birth year. So what you can do is you can always console log this. So when you are trying it on your own, you can console log this, but I know that we are going to get the user birth month by doing this and trying all this out. So for now, let's save and then we can continue. So first things first, we want to calculate the year. So we'll be working with ternary operators. So instead of using if statements and writing if this, if else, do this, else do this, and else do that. So we're working with ternary operator. So I'll just give a brief overview of what a ternary operator is. So let's say we have the ternary operator and say we'll say want to write an if else statement using ternary operator. So we'll say const, let us say is true, or let us say const value. What we'll write is how we'll write it, we'll do it, we'll say a condition. We'll say here, write condition first. Condition. Condition, we'll put a question mark. Condition, we'll say run this if true, else run this if false. That is how we use ternary operator. So it's saying if this, do this, else do this. I don't know if you understand, you're following. So whatever code you put inside here is what to output if this condition is true. Whatever code you put here is what to run if the condition is false. But if you now want to write multiple, how do you do it? You say if this condition, do this, else we'll check another condition. We'll say condition, and then we'll now say if this condition, run this, else run this. If you want to write another condition again, we want to keep adding more conditions. So after the else, remember this is else, and this is condition if true, run this, else run this. If you want to write another condition, we can write another condition, sorry, condition, and then we'll say question mark, run this if true, run this if true, else run this. So that's what we are going to be using. I'm just going to leave this here for you to. So just let me ternary condition. I don't know, is this the, I think it's ternary, yeah, ternary condition. So this is the type of condition we are going to use to get our year, our month, and our day. So what we are going to do now is for the year, let's start with the year. So we say const year, and what is the first thing we want to do? So we want to check. So usually, let me go to a visualizer so that we're able to visualize what we are doing. So let's say we have January to December, right? And let's say we're in 2025. If my birthday, that is this, I'm the user now, my birthday is December, and we're currently in June, and I just want to do, I want to get how old I am from in years. What I'll do is I'll take the current year, 2025, and say minus the year I was born. You understand? And it will give me the output. But by the time it gives me the output, let's say a user was born, let's say a user was born in 2001, for instance, and then the year is 2025. So we'll do 2025 minus 2000, and this will give us what? 24 years old. But the user is not yet 24 years old. You understand? The user is, because the current month is not yet on the, like, the user has not yet celebrated his birthday. So the user has few months to celebrate his birthday. So what we are going to do is, if the current month, yeah, is not yet up to the user month, and the user, we just want to check if the user has celebrated his birthday for that current year. So we'll minus one. So that means the user will be minus 1 years old. That will be 23. So the user will be 23 years old and some few months old. You understand? So that's what we are trying to, that's what we are going to write the condition for. So what we are going to do first is, we are going to check. We are going to check and say the current month is the, want to check is the current month equals to, let's use triple equals to the user birth month. So I want to check, is the current month equals to the user birth month. Not only that, we also want to check if the current day, that's today, the current day, is it greater than or equals to the user, sorry, is it greater than equals to the user birthday? So this is the first check I want to check. So if the current month is equals to the user birth month, let's say the current month, let's just assume we are already on December, yeah, and this user is was given birth to in December. Don't check. And also the day, let's say the user was born December 1st. We want to check if the current day is greater, let's say 9, and we are currently on 9th of December. I want to check, has the user already celebrated his or her birthday? So if the user has already celebrated his or her birthday, we can just say, want to just do current year. Want to say current year minus the user birth year. You understand? But that's the first condition. This is the first condition that we are writing. You understand? So we'll do this. But if we now want to check the, you see the, want to see check, is this the still the user birth month? We are still on this condition. And let us put this down. Current, I want to say the current month is equals to the user birth month. I want to check if the user has not celebrated his birthday. So if the user has not celebrated his birthday, we are going to minus one. The current day is less than. So let's say the user birthday is on 20 and we are currently in 9. That means the user has not yet celebrated his birthday. So the user is not yet up to 24 in this our example here. So that means we are in the current, we are in the same month, but we have not yet celebrated the user's birthday. So we cannot say the user is already 24. You understand? So to be 23 years old, some few months, let's say 11 months, and some days. I hope you get the concept now. So the current, want to check if the current month is equals to the user birth month, and the current day is less than the user birthday. What we are going to do now is, we are going to say the current year. Say the, we'll say the current year minus the user birth year, and then minus 1. I hope you understand. So that's just what we want to do. So now we also want to add an extra condition. So this is for the current month. That is, if we are in the month that the user was giving birth to, or if you are not in the month that the user was giving birth to, you just want to check if the user birth month. This one is just a normal check. If the user birth month, if the user birth month is greater than the current month, if the user birth month is greater than the current month, so we are going to do the same thing we did here. That means let's say the current month is around June and the user is on December. That means we are not yet up to the user birthday, so we are just going to do the normal thing here we did. So we just say the current year minus the user birth year and then minus 1. But if it's not let's say is not the user birth month is not greater. Let's say the user birth month is around May, and then the current month is around September. That means the user has celebrated his or her birthday already. So the user is already valid. So we can just do the straight up calculation. So we will copy this and paste it. So yeah, we'll just do the normal calculation. And we'll not need to minus 1 because the user already celebrated his birthday in this year for this particular year. So we'll just say it's not the current year minus the user birth year. I don't know if you understand. If we save this, it's going to format it very well for us. So what we can do is once we calculate the year, we can just go to the inputs so year results. You can just say year results, this year results, once we populate the inputs. So say we'll say year results dot text content is equals to the year. So let's test it out and let's see what we have. So let's say we have 12 and the month is what? Let's use our So let's just say the month is May. So May is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the month is May. Okay, we are currently, remember we are getting the current month. So let's use January. So let's say these are their celebrated birthday. If it is January, and let us say 2001. If we check it, see that the user is already 24 years old. But if the user's birthday is still in front, let's say 12, the user will be 23 years old because the birthday has not been reached. You understand? So the user is going to be 23 years old. So to be 23 years old and some few months and some few days. So we are done with the calculation for the 23. If you don't understand, you can rewatch the video and try it out again. Try to use this diagram. Try to use a diagram to like understand. So get your currents, understand where your current day month is, and understand where the user month is. And look through this ternary operator. Remember, I said this is the condition before the question mark. You have the condition. After the question mark, you have what you receive when it is true. Then you have a column and you have what you receive when it's false. It could be a condition like such as this, or it could be a final statement. Understand? So you can read more on ternary conditions, ternary statements for you to understand this better. But this is what we are going to do to calculate the year. So this is just a simple logic if you actually think deeply into it. So let's move on to calculate the months. And for the months, we are going to be doing a lot of calculation just like the year. So for the months, the first condition we want to do is we want to check, are we in the user's birth month? You understand? Want to check, are we currently in the user's birth month? So let's say the user, we are in May, June, right? This is the current month. Want to check, are we in the user's birth month? And we'll do that by saying if current month triple equals to, so triple equals to just to check um equality to make sure that they are actually equal. So triple equals to user birth month. I want to also check if the current day and the current day is greater than or equals to the user birthday. So we are trying to check if the current month. So if we are here June, and if we're in the month of June and my birthday is on June, you understand? Want to check how many months old am I? You understand? But want to check how many months old am I? So if the current date, that's what we are checking here. If the current month is equals to the user birth month. So let me personalize it. If this month is my birth month and the current day is greater than my birthday, that means I've already celebrated my birthday. That means I'm 0 months old. You understand? I'll be days old instead of months old. So we are going to return 0. You understand? That means the user has already celebrated his birthday. But if the user has not celebrated his birthday, so we are going to write another condition. The condition will be something similar to this. So we are just going to copy this, copy and paste. So if the current month is equal to my month, like my birth month, but the current day is less than my birthday. So we are going to return in this instance 11. That means I'm currently 11 months old and some days. So if it counts from years from June, say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I'm 11 months old and some days because I have not celebrated my birthday in this month. So the current day is less than my birthday. We are going to return 11. I hope you understand. So if that's um if that's the case, we return 11. So that's for this condition. So once we write another condition, we're going to check if the current month, yeah, if the current month minus the user birth month is equals to 1, and want to check if the current day is less than the user birthday, we want to return 0. So what we want to do is we want to check that if the current month minus the user birth month. So let's say the current month is June. Let's just use that June as the current month. And then my birthday was on May. I want to check if the current month is greater, is current month minus user birth month. So June is 6 and May is 5. 6 minus 5 will give us 1. So if the current month minus user birth month is equals to 1, and then the current day. That means, let's say I was born 20th of May. You understand? 20th of May. If the current day is less than the user birthday, that means I've not yet celebrated my a month old in June. I'm going to return 0. You understand? That's just what this statement is saying. So we are writing these different conditions to ensure that the our month year is accurately calculated. So I'm going to write different conditions to make sure that our month is accurately calculated. So when we do this, we're still going to write more conditions. So write another condition. You want to check if the current month, if the current month is, I think we've written the one for, okay, we just wrote the one for when the month is higher than it by 1. So let's move on to the next one. So current month, if the current month is greater than the user birth month, that means it's already past the month that I was giving birth to, and the current day is less than the user birthday. So less than the user birthday. What do we want to do? We want to return, sorry, a question mark for each statement. We want to return the current month, or return the current month minus the user birth month minus 1. And I'm going to explain this in a bit. So to explain this, I'm going to use the visualization, the drawing that we've done here. I don't think we need this, so let me just put this up here. So what it's saying is, if the current month, this is the condition, the current month is greater than the user birth month, and the current day is less than the user birthday. That means the current month is greater. So let's say, if normally, if I want to calculate, I'll just say if you're in August and my birthday is on May, that means the current month is greater than my birthday. I can just do August, which is 8, minus May, which is 5. I'll be 3 months old. You understand? But what if the current, we have not celebrated a month old for this particular month? Maybe it means like 3 more days to my birthday. So I'll just be 2 months old and some days. I hope you understand. That's what this was does. This condition is saying here. But if the current month is greater than the user birth month, current month greater than the user birth month, and the current day is less than user birthday, that means I've not celebrated my birthday for this particular month. No, we celebrate. Let's say I celebrate every month. So every month I'm getting a month older. You understand? So in June, my birthday is May. In June, I'm a month older. July, let's say it's May 20, June 20, I'm a month older. July 20, I'm 2 months older. August 20, I'm 3 months older. But if I'm not, but if currently in August, we are in August 1st, I'll just be 2 months and some days old. I hope you get me now. That's why we are saying we are minusing 1. So you say current month is greater than user birth month, and current day is less than user birthday. So we'll say what we are going to do is current month minus user birth month minus 1. I hope you understand. But we are going to write another condition to check if we have already celebrated our birthday in this particular month. So, and the condition is um, similar to what we wrote here. So we'll say if the current month is greater than the user birth month and the current day. So we are going to copy all this. When the current month is greater than user birth month and the current day is greater than or equals to. So if that day is the user birthday, like in a month, like let's say 20th, maybe say May May 20, and we're already on August 20. That means the user is another month old already. So, or if it's greater than that, means I celebrated the birthday for this particular month and it's 3 months old and some days. You understand? So, we'll not need to minus one again from the calculation. So, the current month is greater than the user birth month, and the current day is greater than or equals to the user birthday. What we want to do is we just want to say the current month minus the user birth month. Yeah. So that is what we are going to do here. So I hope you are following through. So what's now happen is there's few more conditions we need to write. So what we want to check, all we've been doing now, we have been checking if the current month is greater than the user month. But what if the current month is less? So let's say we are currently in June and the user's birthday is December. How do we calculate how many months old the user is? You understand? So what we are going to say is we are going to write a condition. So after the condition, so we are saying if this is true, run this. Else, want to check again. Want to say if the current how do I keep spelling current wrong? If the current month is less than the user birth month. And why we are saying less is like if June is 6 is less than 12. You understand? So if the current month is less than the user birth month and sorry, and the current day is also less than the um, user birthday. What we want to do is want to do a simple formula. It's going to be say we're going to say 12 minus the user birth month. Let me space this out so that we can see it better. 12 minus the user birth month plus the current month. Why do I keep spelling this wrong? The current month minus 1. So let's go to the visualization where we are visualizing it so that we can see what we are doing. So if the current month, yeah, is less than the user birth month, and the current day is less than the user birthday. So let's say the user has not calculated the birth, has not done the birthday for that current month. So let's visualize it. So let's say the current month is 12 here. No, the current month is 6, is less than 12. You understand? What do we and we have not celebrated the birthday for June. We'll say 12 minus the user birth month. So the formula we are using is we are saying 12 minus wherever the user was born, let's say December 12, to give us 1. And then we now want to add, what do we want to add? We want to add the current month. So the current month is what? 6, right? So say 6. You understand? So, but once we check, remember we said -1. So -1 is if we've not celebrated. We can just do this. Yes, it does be equals to 7. If you look at it, we're born December. How many months old are we now that we're in June? We are 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, I made a mistake in my calculation. 12 minus 12 is 0. Yeah, so 0 plus 6 is going to give us 6. So we are We were born in December and we are currently in June. We are 6 months old. That is if we have already passed. So if we are born December 20 and we are currently not in June 20, that means we need to minus one. That means we are five, sorry, Control Z. That means we are 5 months. We are 5 months and some days old. But if we have already celebrated our birthday for this particular month, we can say 6. So here we are going to say 6 minus 1. I don't know if you understand. So if you go back here, that way I said if current month is less than the user base month, current month is less than the user base month, and the current day is less than the user birthday. That means the user has not celebrated birthday for that month. So say 12 minus the birth month, 12 minus the birth month plus the current month minus 1. And that's what we are going to get. But if the current month is less than the user base month, so this is the final condition once read. If the current month is less than user base month, and we don't need to explicitly write it since this is the last condition, we can just say 12 minus the user birth month, and we'll say plus current month. And if we save this, so what you're saying is if you have already calculated the birthday for this month, let's say the birthday was December 1st, and we're already at June 6th or whatever. So we already celebrated for this month. So we are already 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months old. So we don't need to add minus 1. So this is for someone that was born in December. So let me just put it here. Born in December. So answer that the calculation works for other users also. So let's say the person was now September. Yeah. So let's duplicate this and bring it here. So let's duplicate this. So what if the person was born in, I'm doing all this so that you can understand it very well. The person was born in September. The person was born in September. So say 12 minus the months they were born. So September is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9. This will give us 3. And I'm going to say 3, and the current month is what? June. So we'll say 3 plus 6 will give us 9. If we check how many months old the person is, so if we check from September, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You see that the calculation is correct. So we are getting the remaining parts of the months. So we are saying it is our born in September. Get what is left of the year, how many months left of the year, and then currently where are we, get it and add it together, and that will give us how many months old the user is. I hope you understand. So we are done with the logic for the month calculation. So we can just say month results dot text content will be equals to month. So if we save this and go back to our code, if we say if we use the what we use now September as an example, let's say we say 1st of September. September is 9, right? 09, let us say 2001. That means we've celebrated our birthday in for June since we already passed June 1st. So we should get exactly 9 months. But if we have not celebrated our birthday in June, so let's say we're not born September 1st, we're born, let's say, September 20, or let's say 23. We see that it's instead of 9 months will now be 8 months old. And then when we do the calculation for this, you will also understand how we calculate for this. So now we are 8 months old. So we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And because we have not celebrated our birthday for this particular month, we cannot say we are 9 months old. I hope you understand. That's why we are doing the -1 in this logic. So if the current month is less than the user birth month and the current day is less, so we have not celebrated our birthday for this month, we'll do this calculation and -1. So that is it for the month. And right now we are also going to do the calculation for the day. For the logic of the for calculating the day, what we are going to do is we are going to do almost the same thing we have been doing before, where we are checking if the current month is the user best month, and we are trying to see if the day as the user celebrated their birthday for that particular month. So what we are going to, excuse me, what we are going to do first of all is we are going to take the current month. We want to check if the current month is the user birth month. So let's start the visualization. So let's say if the current month is the user birth month. And since we are done with this, I can just minimize this and put it somewhere else. So yeah, we're trying to check if the current month is the user birth month and the current day is less than the user birthday. Where is the user birthday? So what we are going to do is we want to check how many days old is the user. You understand? So let's say the user was born June 20. Let me follow the logic. We are trying to check and the current day is less than the user birthday. Okay. So and current day is, so the user was born June 20, but today's date is June 9. So what we want to do is we want to check how many days old is the user. So what we'll do is we want to calculate that for the previous month. We'll say May. We'll say May. How many months, how many days? So from May 20 to the end of May is how many days? Plus the current today's date. So that's how we are going to get the total. I don't know if you understand. So we are going to check May for May. How many days is left from, let's say if the user is 20. If the user is 20, how many days is from May? I think if we check, May should be how many? May is 31 days. You understand? I want to check how many days till 31, from 20 to from 30, sorry, from 20 to 31, how many days is left? So when we subtract it, we are going to get what, 11. So 11 plus, if we're in June 9, so 11 plus 9 will give us what? It's going to give us 20. So we are 20 days old. So that's the kind of logic we are going to do. We are going to use. So we'll check if the current month is the user birth month. You understand? So that is the month we are celebrating the birth. We want to check how many days old is the user from the previous month where they celebrated their birthday. Since the current day, since they've not celebrated for this particular month, so since the current day is still less than their actual birthday. I don't know if you understand. So let me erase this. And yeah, I'm going to continue with the logic. So what we are going to do is we need a way for us to calculate the previous month. Understand? But we need to find a way to calculate the previous month. So we need to write a function. So for now, let's just come down here and write a function, and let's just call it get remaining day of the month. Remember, I want to get remaining day of the previous month. So we are going to collect the current month. You understand? So I'm going to collect the month, or let us say month. We're going to pass in the month, and we're also going to pass in the dates, or let's say day. So what we are going to do is we are going to say we are going to check if the month is if the month has 30 days or the month has 31 days. So just like the conditionals we did before, we'll just say if 30 days, if 30 days dot includes if 30 days dot includes the current, sorry, not current month, the month that we're passing. So if 30 days dot includes the month, what we want to do is we now want to do return. What we want to return is 30 minus day. So if the user was born 20th, so I want to check the remaining days from the previous month, so it's also 30 minus 20, which will give us 10. But do else if 31 days. If 31 days, if the month is 31 days, we'll return 31 minus the day. We'll get the remaining days of the previous month. And then, of course, we need to do for February. If the month is not part of, it's not 30 days, it's not 31 days, then it's probably February. So what we just do is we'll just return 29 minus the day to get the remaining days of that particular month. So yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to copy this and we're going to paste it here. So what we want to do is we want to get the remaining days of the month. And what months are we trying to, so remember it's the previous month. So say the current month minus 1. So get me the remaining days of the previous month, and we are going to pass in which day are we going to pass in. Can you guess which day we are going to pass in? We are going to pass in the user birthday because that is what we are trying to get the remaining days from. So pass in the user birthday. Yeah. So when we do this, we are going to get the remaining days of the month, and we also going to get the user birthday. I remember what we said. Well, okay, I annotated it here before I already cleaned this. So we're going to get the remaining days from the previous month, May, plus which day. So we are in 9. Then we are these remaining days plus the current day we are going to give us the total number of days that old that the user is. So I'm going to say this plus the current day. Understand? So that's just what we are going to do for this particular condition. So if the current month is equal to the user best month and the current day is less, that means the user has not celebrated his birthday for that particular month. So we are going to get the remaining days of the previous month plus the current day. So now we are going to add another condition, of course. Sorry, we're going to add another condition, and we are going to write almost the same condition as the one above. So let's just say if the current month is equal to the birth month and the current day is less than the birthday. But now we are not checking if the current day is less than the birthday. We want to check if the current day is greater than or equals to the birthday. So that means want to check, have we celebrated? So if the person is June 1st, have we passed June 1st? You understand? So that means is the current day greater than or equals to, are we in that particular is that birthday, or we have already passed the birthday? Now, birthday is not meaning the full birthday. I mean the date, such as 20, or first, second, and stuff like that. So we are going to check, are we in the user's current month, and also have we celebrated our birthday for this month? And after we check it, we are just going to do the simple condition calculation. I'll say the, sorry, not question mark. Remember, after a condition, we put the question mark and put our calculation. So we'll say the current day minus the user birthday. That's where I'm going to get how many days old. So this is just saying if the user was born, um, if the user was born 1st of June, yeah, and we're already in 9th of June, the user is 9 minus 1 days old. That is 8. So the user is now 8 days old. I I, I don't know if you guess that concept. It's kind of, if you wrap your head around it, it's actually kind of easy. You understand? So once we check, I'm going to be writing another condition. And so else if, this is like saying else if, and then we write our condition. I want to check if the current month, sorry, so now remember we did for the current month, and the, remember we did for the current month, we are checking if the current month is the user best month and the current day is less than birthday. So now we don't need to check for the current month. We just want to check if the current day, so just like we are checking this one, if the current day is less than the user birthday. So if the current day is less than the user birthday, what do we want to do? We want to do the same thing we did here. We want to also get the remaining day of the month for the previous month and the birthday, and then add, and then we are going to add the current day to it. So copy and just paste it here. So if the current day is just less than the user birthday. So this one, remember this one is just for the current, for if the birth month. So that is if the if the birth month is same as the current. What if it's just the current is at the front and the user is at this place? You understand? So for when it's not even the user's birth month. So if the current day is just less than the user birthday, we just need to do get remaining day of the month of the previous month. This is the previous month, then the user birthday, and then plus the current day to get how many days old the user is. Else, we'll just do current day minus the user birthday. So save. So like this, we have already concluded the logic for the days calculation. And let's test it out. We can just say days results, excuse me, days results dot text content equals day. And okay, we close this. If we save this, we can go and test out the application. So let's say Lisa was born, let's use June, so that we'll be able to visualize it very well. So we are currently in June, and let's say the user was born on the 12th of June. June is 06 20 2001. Let's do it. So 12th of June. So if we check it, you see that the user is 23 years old, 11 months, and 28 days. You understand? But if the user was born 1st of June, the user is 24 years old, 4 months, and 8 days old. You understand? Because he's still just 8 days old. Just celebrated his birthday. Is our birthday 1st of June. So you can test it out with other advanced applications. So I have a current we can to test out that what we've done is correct. There's a website for you to check your age. Let me see if I can get it. It's called um, age calculator. So uh, is this it? Okay, no, this is it. Yeah, because I've used it before. So what we can do is we can use to test if the age we are calculating is correct. So we are currently today's date is 9th of June 2025. So let's say we want to check a random day. So 30, let's do 28th of '08, and let's do 1998. If we calculate this, we have 26 years, 9 months, and 12 days. So 28, 8, 1998. Let's do it in our calculator. 28, '08, 1998. Let's confirm. 28, 8, 1998. And if we press this, we have 26 years, 9 months, 12 days. 26 years, 9 months, 12 days. Let's try out another random date. So let's say 2nd of February um, 2005. The person will be 20 years, 4 months, 7 days. So let's try it in our application. 2nd of February 2005. 20 years, 4 months, 7 days. 20 years, 4 months, 7 days. That is to say, our logic for calculating the year, the month, and the day works. So you might be wondering, why do I keep checking all these conditions, checking all these conditions? The reason is because if you don't thoroughly brute force your condition, no, not brute, the word is not brute force, pack, kind of pack your condition such that you cover all edge cases. So that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to cover all edge case possible. So you might be seeing that maybe I'm repeating some conditions. So you need to repeat some conditions for when is the same month, when it's not the same month, when the current day has exceeded the person's birthday, the user's birthday. So we need to cover all conditions surrounding each and every one of this calculation. So you need to cover all edge cases for your application to be smooth and well calculated. So that's it for the calculate age. And remember, we are calling it after we validate our inputs. You understand? So if one of this is not correct, so let's just say 222 put this, you say that we get invalid here and we don't need to calculate anything. So it's not going to calculate anything because we're going to return. So invalid here. So we are validating, all the validation is working, the calculation is working very well. And yeah, I can say we are done with this application. So if you don't understand this calculate age, because I know this is kind of like the major um, function in the JavaScript. So you can watch it step by step. And I'm also going to provide a link to the complete code where you can also take it for yourself and practice. And yeah, that would be it. You can go back to front-end mentor and go back to sorry, let me get front-end mentor challenges. So you can go back to front-end mentor. You can try out other challenges by yourself using the knowledge you have learned. You know, you can I'm going to still be making other challenge solution. So I'll make a challenge solution for this mortgage repayments calculator and some other um, challenges also. So that's going to be it for this video. I hope you learned something today and have a nice time.